Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. King in Black, issue number 5 of 5. This is the finale. Does it stick the ending? I say this all the time about every single thing that's out there. If you could stick the ending, you could make a boring story amazing, right? Does that actually happen in here? A story that I did not particularly like, does that stick? Does the ending get stuck here? Well, we're going to get into all that good stuff. First, we're going to give credit where credit's due. Chapter 5, Dawn. So, Donny Cates is the writer, Ryan Stegman on pencils, J.P. Meyer and Ryan Stegman doing the inks, Frank Martin and Jason Keith doing the colors, and VC's Clayton Cowles, different VC, doing the letters. Stegman, Meyer, and Martin doing the cover and variant covers and all sorts of things out there, so enjoy. Okay, so, let's get into the art first off. I am changing Ryan Stegman's name. That seems weird, seems rude, right? No. Please hear me out. You give Ryan Stegman something to do. You give him artwork, and it's just a job, and he's like, oh, yeah, cool story, whatever, let's go. He's going to do a good job, and you can say, oh, wow, nice, this is a really good arc, and he's going to be forgettable. Ryan Stegman will be forgettable. You know who's not forgettable? Randy Stegman. Okay, I'm changing his name to Randy Stegman. This is Ryan Stegman's alter ego is Randy Stegman. Because you give him a work that he loves, that he's really into, like this Venom work, he's going to come out of nowhere, RKO style, Randy Orton style, and just boom. I don't care, dude, fly me to the moon, RKO off the rafters. Like, this dude is straight up, he is wicked. When you give him something that he's really into, he will come by and he will draw a freaking thunderstorm around it. All right, Thor ain't got jack on this guy when he's drawing something that he loves. And that's one of the things that's so amazing about what he's doing. It's not just the idea that he's doing great work. He's doing the kind of work that you look at and you say, where the hell did this guy come from? Wow. Because wow. Every single thing about the art in this book is just beyond the pale and is amazing. As far as the writing of the book, this is it's basically every single story that Donny Cates does. Everything is over the top. He doesn't hold anything back, much like almost like a Zack Snyder, but definitely like a Scott Snyder. He doesn't hold anything back. He's going to come at you and he's going to say, wham, 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 wallop, wham. He's just going to keep on hitting you with every single haymaker out there. And unlike a boxer, okay, because a boxer, you have to pace, right? You got to make sure that you got your footwork down, and you got to throw a lot of jabs. You want to throw a good cross or something like that? Absolutely. But if you come out swinging, by the second round, minimum by the third round, guaranteed by the third round, you're done. You're gassed. You're winded. You ain't getting it back. You're going to be sitting there. The biggest struggle is holding your freaking gloves up, all right? Those heavy-ass gloves. It's going to be hard enough trying to hold those gloves up to defend yourself. At least you're not going to have any kind of offense. Donny Cates doesn't seem to get tired, though. This dude forget about it. He's just haymakers every single time. The problem that I have with that, though, because while you're going to look at a lot of these and just go, okay, that's wicked. Okay, that's cool. The problem is that we're going to get tired. You see, adrenaline is a cool thing if you can make it last, right? In any fight, in any sports activity, anything you're going to do, adrenaline lasts on average for a minute, right? Even if you're mad and you just start yelling, right? It's only going to last for a maximum of a minute. If it lasts longer than that, it's like, dude, you're kind of losing it right now, right? You're gassed, you're winded, you got nothing left. You're just doing this out of pure anger. That's kind of the way that I feel. It sounds like I'm rambling a little bit. Let's bring it in a little. Donny Cates, in the beginning of this, the Silver Surfer turns his board into a sword, which is something that we've seen done before. I don't remember if he actually turned it into a sword, but he's turned his board into other things before. If you're a new reader, this is, oh my God, amazing to you, and that's cool. I've talked about this before. right? This is the Julius Schwartz technique. Julius Schwartz was, I believe, the longest running CEO, publisher, whatever the hell you want to call it, the guy in charge of DC Comics for the longest time. And at DC Comics, he had this thing where it's like, listen, if you're a new writer, what I want you to do is, on the book that you're writing, go back 5 years ago. Read some of those books. Here, DC's always been really good at this. I don't know if they still do it. But back in the day, and I'm talking like barely 20 years ago, it used to be that they would have... here, when Jeff Johns came to the Green Lantern, and he was going to write all these different, the Lantern cores and the different colors, the emotional spectrum and all that stuff, he needed something to draw upon. He needed to know what was the history of the DC universe. So he says, has such and such ever happened before? Has this ever happened before? Have we ever seen such and such before? And DC will take pretty much photocopied versions in color of all of these incredible stories and whatnot, and they will ship them to that writer. They will mail them to that writer and say, here you go. They won't even give you an answer. They'll just ship you the copies. Now, you can find the writer, you could ask them, hey, what happened with this, that, and the other thing, and they'll be happy usually to, explain that stuff. And if they're still in the employ of DC Comics, absolutely. It's like you're forced, almost to explain that stuff. Anyway, and of course the editors are more than happy to help you out because they're the ones who've been doing this stuff the longest, right? Now, in this particular case, I almost feel like that's what happened here with Donny Cates, with Donny Cates, because he clearly knows these stories. Now, are we getting the quality that we had from before, and is the credit being given to where it's coming from? Listen, there's a reason why Marvel Comics blew DC out of the water when Julius Schwartz was in charge of DC. All right? And potential sex crimes and all that stuff aside, the people who knew him, probably not the women, so the men who knew him, on average, they really liked Julius Schwartz, right? But if you were a hot chick, probably weren't going to like him. If you were harassed by somebody else, you probably weren't going to like him. In this particular case, though, this is one of those situations where Donny Cates has been looking over the past of Marvel, the past of Venom, the past of other characters and whatnot, and this is what he does. He just says, hey, this was a really great moment. I'm going to use it here. This was a great moment. I'm going to use it right after that. So all these great moments, like, look, Walter Simonson's run was amazing because there were so many great and original aspects to Thor. Donny Cates takes some of those highlights and he moves them over to his Thor and his Venom, and he'll just kind of go, And he injects them all at one time. And then boom, that's what we got. That's what we get. Donny will take... Oh, man, this is so frustrating. I have a feeling that he's leaving Marvel pretty soon. And I'm not sad that he is, because I've said this before. Donny does better when he's on his own. Donny does better when he doesn't have continuity to go by. Donny does better when he has to be original. Because you could take all the great Venom moments in the past and put them all together in a single issue or in a couple of issues and then just go, yay. But the problem is that every time that Venom wins in here, that Eddie Brock wins in here, every time that Flash Thompson wins, and that's not in this book, that's in the other book, in the Venom book, none of it feels earned. None of it. Why? Because you're getting all these great highlights, but it's just moment after moment after moment after moment after moment. Middle, what was it? Beginning, middle, right? Work it all out. Get introduced to stuff, work it out. Here's damn, I can't remember the word, the high point, right? The climax, there we go. And then there's the conclusion. That's how stories have been written since forever. That's how stories need to be written. Otherwise, it's just exposition. Everybody notices that. Even if you don't know the word for it, you know exactly what this is. This is an explanation. This is a narrative. This is not a freaking story. Like, what the hell am I getting here? You know, it's like Jarvis giving the answer to your math homework. Everything that happens here, the Silver Surfer's board changing, Eddie Brock suddenly becoming worth it. Look, why does the board go to, in the sword form or whatever, go to Eddie Brock? What has he done that's worthy of it? Why does Mjolnir go to Eddie Brock? Suddenly he's worthy of it. Why? Why does that happen? Why do both of these merge together to form this big glowing axe that, back to Ryan Stegman, dude, it's in the shape of the spider/dragon symbol. That's really cool. But why does it do that? Seriously, stop for a moment. Ask yourself that question. If you loved this book, I'm happy for you. I'm a little jealous of you. You might be a brand new, and there's a lot of people who have said in the comments, yes, I do read the comment section, who said in the comment section, Bill, I am a new reader, so I am loving this stuff because this is all new to me. That's cool. Crushes my soul, though, that you don't know where it comes from. And it's not your fault. That's Donny Cates' fault. Because when you take someone else's work and you don't give that individual credit for it, that's a damn shame. It's also called plagiarism. But somehow in the comics, since these are all free agents, it kind of sucks. But it is what it is. It'd be nice if Donnie actually sat down with somebody. I sincerely doubt he's ever going to sit down with me again. Because, just whatever. It is what it is. Maybe the guy's got the best ego in the world. Not a bad ego, but like the best ego in the world. And he could sit down and say, you know what, Bill? You're right. Let's talk about all my influences. All right? Doubt it. Honestly doubt it. Honestly doubt it. From the time that I've met him and the times that I've spoken with him, I sincerely doubt it. It almost seems like he's just got this mentality of, what the hell are you talking about? Look at my sales. Yes, look at your sales. Look at your sales, and where do those sales actually come from? Why are people in love with what you're doing? It crushes my soul. It really does. As an amateur comic book historian, it absolutely crushes my soul. Listen, from the beginning. Maybe the argument that would come up is he was worthy of Captain Universe, which is basically Marvel's version of Captain Planet. Okay? Maybe that's the argument. Since he was worthy of Captain Universe, he's worthy of all these other things. Okay. That would be a fair statement. But here's the problem with not being a chess player, not being able to think several moves in front of you. You don't think about the move that you're making. You thought about that move a while ago. You're thinking about why you're making this move because you're trying to get to this move. And what is the other person going to do? So play chess with yourself, so to speak. That's how you're going to get really good at the game. Why is Eddie Brock worthy of Captain Universe? That's the big question. Because if you say he's worthy of the Surfer's Board, he's worthy of Mjolnir, and, all this other stuff, because he's worthy of Captain Universe, okay, then why is he worthy of Captain Universe? There is no lead up. There is no payoff. Everything in here is just climaxes. Listen, I'm sure that sex could be fun if you just, said, yeah, let's go have sex. And there's just like, the one chump pump, boom, climax. It was good for me. Once word gets out that you're a one chump pump, bruh. Anybody ever seen, what is it called? Rescue Me with Dennis Leary? One of the best TV shows ever. God, I love that TV show. I gotta get that on DVD because I don't know where you could find that. But I watched every episode with my wife and she loved it. Like, dude, it is a great show. There's this one episode later on where there's this woman who would have climaxes that they happened really fast before the guy could finish, before Dennis Leary could finish. And she's just like, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. And it's like, That's it. The guy, he had some fun, but he didn't finish. And it's like, and then by the time that she gets used to you, so that it's like she's done with you and she moves on to somebody else. Could you imagine that? If you never got yours? But that's the thing with that kind of a climax that they're doing in this book. When everything is payoff, payoff, payoff. But there's no reason for the payoff. It gets to the point where it's not fun anymore. There is no reason why Eddie Brock is worthy of any of the accolades that he's gotten. None. What finally ended it for me with Venom, Donny Cates on Venom, is when he got his hand cut off. And it's like, oh, cool, 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 cool. And then he got his hand back. And I'm just like, there was no reason for it then. Does anybody remember when Peter David had Aquaman lose his hand? Dude, you could hate the story. You could hate one-handed Aquaman. You could, all that stuff. Hookman, Aquaman, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. He had that freaking harpoon for his hand. Later, he got like the extension for it, like it would rope out. I didn't like that. I just liked it when it's just, he shoved a freaking harpoon in there, and that's when he was kicking your butt with, right? He was angry, he got the long hair and everything. He was pissed off of the world, and he was going to let you know about it and beat you down with it, right? Later on, he did the thing, and then he got like the water hand that could take the shape of, stuff, like all this stuff. Look how long that went on for. When he got his hand back, like there was a payoff. It was like, oh, shoot. Oh, wait, hey, right? There was something there. So many of these stories, when you take something away from a hero, like for instance, take away Thor's worthiness, and that was Jason Aaron, the hero of Donny Cates. When you take away the worthiness of Thor, the whole purpose is, like, you could focus on this person now being worthy, right? But the big thing, I think, why people were really upset with that story is that what we never actually got to see was Thor becoming worthy. Donny Cates, when he was writing the Thanos wins story, all right, that whole long story arc in the Thanos comic book, when he was doing that, do you remember that really amazing moment when Silver Surfer showed up? He was the, what was he called? The whatever the hell he was called, right? He showed up and he had Mjolnir. And it's like, oh, what have you been doing this whole time? I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. What have you been doing? And he answers Thanos and he says, I've been becoming worthy. And he shows Mjolnir. Every single one of us was just like, oh, shit! We lost our minds. We lost our collective minds. Because what happened? We got to see the payoff, but we didn't get to see the buildup. Now, it's fine because at least there was the mention that there was a buildup. Thanos has been ruling. He's been winning for 1,000 years plus because Silver Surfer wasn't worth it. He was like, I need to have a weapon that I can actually fight Thanos back with. So he had to become worthy of the hammer. And then afterwards, we got a little moment where he was making himself worthy, right? So all that, it worked enough because we know who the Silver Surfer is. We know that he should be eventually considered worthy. Where's the buildup? Where's even the idea of I was making myself worthy? Where did it feel like Eddie Brock became worthy of anything at any moment? In the Venom comic book and here, during Donny Cates' run, when did he ever feel like he was worthy of anything? Oh, he's got a son? This absentee father? I didn't know about his son. Yeah. He all of a sudden he becomes a father, so now he's worthy? Shit. That just explains so much. That's why I can just, anytime you want. Hey, oh my God. Like, dude, I'm telling you right now, this is not, oh, by the way, I added the thong. No, that's not how you put together a comic book. And again, The taste tester does not have to know the chef or like the chef or hang out with the chef or know the history of the chef or even know how to cook in order to taste food. Proof. You haven't liked everything that you've ever eaten before. There are things that you've eaten and said, I don't think this is cooked well enough, or, oh, I think this is overdone, or, you didn't use enough spices, or, oh my God, I need a tomato because this is way too spicy. There's been times when you haven't liked something and you don't know how to cook. Maybe you do, but there's been something in your life. Maybe you bought a lemon. Well, imagine if you bought a car and it didn't work and you brought it back to the dealer and said, hey, this car's a lemon. And the person says, you are not a car repairman. You're not even a farmer. So don't tell me about a lemon. Imagine that. I've been reading enough comic books throughout my life that I see where every single thing, pretty much, I'm sure there's some things that I'm missing, but I see almost where everything here has come from. And I know that there was a buildup and there was a payoff. You have to have a buildup to have a real good payoff. And Donnie doesn't know how to he doesn't have the patience to do a buildup. He just doesn't. Much like Jason Aaron. The Thor comic book started focusing on Jane Foster. And the very simple solution for that on Aaron's part was, well, she's Thor now. Thor is just a title. So when Thor was born, see, no. Just even that, we're going to say Thor. Thor is the Odin's son. When he was born, they didn't say, Odin's son, what's his name? I don't know, but let's give him a title. Let's just call him Mr. Odin's son. You know what I'm saying? And then, oh, you're not the Mr. anymore. Now it goes to her because it's just a title. Come on. That didn't work. That didn't work. We tried to make it work. Because so much of the Jane Foster stuff was cool. So much of some of the other Thor stuff was cool. So much of it was cool that we wanted to give exceptions. We wanted to give excuses. We wanted to give you a mulligan, right? But it didn't work. And at the end of the day, when all of your focus is on Jane Foster, and then you turn around and this is what you give it, you get Thor who just, he's worthy again by default. Thor got sloppy seconds on Mjolnir. I wouldn't want a sloppy seconds Mjolnir. No, I'm dead serious when I say that too. Because the coolest aspect of Mjolnir is not the storm creating stuff, which Thor can do anyway. It's not the flying thing, which Thor can do anyway, right? It's not all of that stuff. It's the idea that you need to be worthy to pick up the hammer. Which is one of those things when Thor in this comic book says that should be impossible. Yeah, actually it is impossible. It's a comic book, but there's a history here. The days when Grunwald and Shooter and all these amazing guys, when Marvel sold more than anything that's happening today. When if the sales of a book as big as this and Venom and anything that Donny Cates is doing, when the sales of the books today would have been enough that they would cancel that book like that. They wouldn't give you a next issue. If the sales were so low, like the books today, yeah, I know. They're making great sales, yeah, for today. But compared to what was happening in the 80s, compared to what was happening under Shooter's run, when Mark Grunwald was there, the Roy Thomases, right? The Jim Starlins, who, I'm sorry. I know that when I talked to Jim Starlin several times, including the interview that I did, and a lot of that stuff was behind the scenes because I didn't want to embarrass him if he was just like I did with Donny Cates. Hey, I don't want to embarrass you with this stuff, but here's the deal. Jim Shooter was not mad at Donny Cates for the blatant theft of his Thanos storyline back in the Thanos Wins stuff. The blatant theft of what happened. So when we're looking at the Thanos Wins stuff and going, Donny Cates is a genius. Actually, turns out that stuff came from Jim Starlin by way of Tom Brevoort, who has had a mad-on with Jim Starlin. These two have had a hate-hate relationship for years, and Brevoort kept on delaying. This was a book that was edited, the Thanos trilogy, the final Thanos trilogy, right? He's been delaying the release of these books that freaking Starlin was done with. he wasn't drawing them anymore because at the time he blew out his hand from the soda machine. But he, and I was the first person to mention that to the world. I was the first person to bring that to the world because, and Jim didn't want to talk about why it happened, so I didn't involve that on camera, but he pointed out, he's like, yeah, I blew up my hand, I can't draw anymore. And I was like, oh shit, I'm getting an exclusive right here. Jim Starlin can't draw anymore. Oh crap. You know what I'm saying? I kept my cool though. I kept my cool. But when he sits there and explains, Tom Brevoort has been holding back the book from being published, and he can't hold it back forever, but he's holding it back. Oh, look. So Brevoort goes and gives the idea to Donny Cates, the whole story, the whole thing of it. Just do this instead. So Donny does that. Donny gets the credit for this. Jim Starlin's great idea kind of goes by the wayside. Now it's like, oh, you did it second. Actually, he was the originator of this stuff. Go back and read those stories to understand. One of these days, I got to do a spotlight. I haven't been doing much with the channel lately, and I apologize. Too busy with my immigration refugee consultation stuff. By the way, I passed my classes. I just have to practice now for the final test, which is to get licensed, and that's by the federal government. Anyway, this seeing where all this stuff comes from. And seeing no credit being given to the originators of these ideas, because legally, these people don't work for Marvel, including Donny Cates. They don't work for Marvel. They're just writers for hire. That's it. They're just freelancers. The whole system is just really, it's dirty. It's just dirty. I'm sorry. I really want Donny Cates to be done with Marvel Comics. I don't want him to go to DC Comics. I'm sure that they will bring him in a heartbeat. Just like this is a cronyism thing. I'm sure that he's a great guy to be around for now, and he makes some money, whatever. Marvel just brought in John Romita Jr. They just returned John Romita Jr. I just talked about it on the Comic Book University podcast. This is cronyism. This is, hey, you're my friend from the bullpen days, way back in the day. Welcome back home. Yeah, but is that good for the business? Because John Romita Jr. books don't sell. No, by all means, go and prove me wrong. They don't sell because he sucks as an artist nowadays. Actually, for the past 2 decades, he sucked. And he says, flat out, I'm not interested in doing good artwork anymore. Because you know what? I don't get paid for good work. I get paid for putting pen to paper. Okay, good job. But pencil to paper in this case. Well, good job. Here's the problem. We're going to vote with our dollars, and we're not going to buy your books anymore. And look what happens. They still keep on bringing this guy back. Boycott. I don't care if it's the greatest written. I don't care if Al Ewing is doing a book and John Romita Jr. is doing the art on that book. I will not be reading that book. Done and done. That is not even a conversation worth having. Donny Cates is getting to that point too. Because I've already read every single thing that Donny Cates has ever done. And I've seen the build-up and I've seen the payoff. And I've probably had a conversation, if the person's still alive, I've probably had a conversation with that person. Donny needs to go back to doing his own stuff. He needs to go back to doing the God Country stuff, to go back to doing the redneck stuff. Apparently he never stopped, but it's not the point. Go back and keep on doing, do your crossover stuff. Do all of your original stuff. Your creator-owned stuff. Just do that stuff. Because that's where he shines. That's where he comes out and he does his stuff. And people of all generations, not just people who are brand new to comic books, but people who, like me, have been reading comic books since the 70s, can go back and look at this stuff and say, oh, crap, that's a really good idea. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Oh, hey, innovative. Because this, I've seen all of this stuff before. I've got no interest in seeing it ever again. It's a shame. I know there's a lot of people who like it, and I'm happy that you like this stuff. And if you're an old school reader and you still like this stuff, that's cool too. I'm okay with that also. I don't understand it, but I don't have to understand it. I don't have to understand why you like something. I simply have to respect that you like it. And as long as you're one of the more mature ones, as long as you're not one of the jackasses who's going to send me a freaking death threat and threaten to take me away from my family because I don't like the same comic book that you like, you freaking sissy yellow belly sapsucker loser, then yeah, then I'm okay with it too. At the end of the day, this is a simple case of you like something I don't like. I don't like something that you do like. It's as simple as that. It's not hard. This isn't rocket science, right? This though. Yeah. Cates needs to go back to doing his own work. I don't know if he's going to make the same money, but at the end of the day, you know what? It is what it is. And I don't want to make this personal. I hate the idea that this is coming across as so personal, because I don't hate the man, but I hate his work. I genuinely hate his work. It's horrible. It's horrific. And it's just blatant plagiarism from the beginning to the end. And he doesn't even do it right. It's literally just, I'm going to steal this high point and this high point and this high point. I'm going to put them all together in a book, and the people are going to go, wow. And at the end of the day, I got to give credit where credit's due. He's winning. He's Thanos in this. He's winning. You know what I'm saying? It used to be that we used to just read because there was stuff to read. I don't care if it's a novel. I don't care if it's whatever. Can you imagine 10,000 Leagues Below the Sea being put in however many characters Twitter can handle? What is it, 280? Is it less? Could you imagine having to reduce an entire great novel to something that small? I can remember back in the day, I can remember reading about way, way back in the day, before my time, when people would say those classic illustrated books, they shouldn't be done because we shouldn't reduce the great works like Moby Dick, and Swiss Family Robinson to comic books. We shouldn't reduce these great works to that. And I used to sit there and look at it and say, yeah, but this is my introduction to those. Nowadays, while some people may choose to use that same argument, it's not true. Because when I would read the Swiss Family Robinson, I could look and see where that came from. When I used to read Moby Dick and all the great works, Don Quixote, Ivanhoe, when I used to read those in the classic illustrated books, the comic books, the comic book version of these great novels, it made me say, oh crap, I need to go and read this freaking novel and see all the things that I'm missing. And I'd go back and I would read them and wow. The Count of Monte Cristo was the only really great novel that I regret not reading when I was a kid, because I read pretty much all of them, and my introduction to those was the comic books, because it said where this work actually originally came from. Tell me, at what point does Donny Cates or Marvel or the editorial or otherwise say, hey, all these great high points that Donny Cates is hitting on this is where it's coming from? No, you have to rely on people like me. And that sucks, because I'm not qualified to go and find all these points and this came from this issue of this and this, or go and check out this arc and this run and this whatever. No. What I can instead say is, don't bother with this nonsense. Go and get the Marvel app and just start reading all those old. If it says that it came from the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, read those. Just read. Start with Tales to Astonish, right? Start with Astonishing Tales. Start with Tales of Suspense. Start with all those great anthology books and just bleed into the Fantastic Four, bleed into Spider-Man, bleed into the Hulk, the Avengers, the X-Men. Just start from there and just see the amazing transmogrification of these amazing stories into what they are today. All the mistakes and pitfalls that came with it. See everything, and just how incredible the Marvel Universe is. Back when continuity actually mattered. Back when people cared. Back when people said, you can't have Thor in this issue because in his own comic book, he's over here. So there's no reason why he would be over there. Or if that did happen, it would say, hey, Thor appears in this issue because such and such and such. And everything just worked from there. If something happened throughout time, man, it was shown. Marvel has declined. Comics in general have just, I've already pretty much given up on DC Comics. But Marvel Comics, man, as long as writers like Cates and Aaron are celebrated, Marvel Comics isn't for somebody like me anymore. I really just have to rely on the old stuff, or the rare people like a Kelly Thompson, you know what I'm saying, like a Carla Pacheco. You know what I'm saying? I have to rely on people like this who actually care about the continuity, right? Even though they'll say they don't, it's evident in their works that they do. And it just sucks that this is where we're at right now. When people like Cates are on top, when he's basically just a damn theft. You know, so he's just a thief at this point. And it really breaks my freaking heart. It absolutely crushes my heart. And it would make me feel so much better if he just went on somebody's show. Go on Rob's show, right? Go on one of these big shows. Whatever you need to do. And just explain, listen, the influences that I got, blah, blah, because even then, even saying the influence that I got, no, these aren't influences. If I break into your house and I steal all your silverware or whatever the hell I would steal from you, do I get to say, yeah, my influences for such and such actually came from this house and this guy? That's not an influence, that's a theft. At this point, just, yeah, all these ideas that I got, this is where they came from. It's a shame what's happened to the comic book industry at this point. It's cronyism, right? And they're celebrating sales that would have been an immediate fireable offense, basically. It's like, dude, this book isn't selling, buy. You know what? Here's homework. If you stay through this long to listen to this, here's homework. Compare the Nighthawk sales, right? The original Nighthawk sales, or go to Budiansky and check the Sleepwalker sales. Look at the sales of those books compared to the sales of the Venom books. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'll talk to you guys later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.